Have you ever wondered what lurks in the darkest depths of our oceans? Beneath crushing pressures and endless darkness, mysterious giants roam, perfectly adapted to survive where few could. In today's journey, we'll explore why some deep-sea creatures grow to unimaginable sizes, how life thrives in extreme conditions, and what secrets the abyss may still be hiding. Get ready to dive into a world where survival shapes giants and every shadow tells a story. Today, we're diving into the phenomenon of deep-sea gigantism, why some ocean creatures grow far larger than their shallow water relatives. From colossal squids to enormous crabs, we'll uncover how extreme pressure, cold temperatures, scarce food, and unique ecosystems drive these giants to thrive in the abyss. Prepare to explore the science behind the ocean's hidden titans. The moment I stepped onto the deck of the Abyss Explorer, a strange mix of excitement and nervousness settled in my chest. The Pacific wind hit my face, salty and cold, but it couldn't shake the anticipation building inside me. Dr. Ilara Miles, the marine biologist whose work I had studied for years, was already pacing near the railing, her eyes scanning the horizon as if she expected the ocean to answer her questions. I had admired her research and her careful skepticism, but seeing her in person, I felt the intensity she carried like a force of its own. The mission was daring, almost reckless, a journey into the Mariana Trench, the deepest known point on Earth to study deep-sea giantism. Ilara was chasing a legend about a colossal squid, a creature spoken of in whispers among fishermen and scientists. Many dismissed it as myth, but Ilara didn't, and her conviction pulled the rest of us along. Boarding the submersible, I felt my heartbeat accelerate. The Abyss Explorer had several advanced vessels, but ours, the Nautilus II, was the most sophisticated. Its titanium hull promised safety against the crushing pressure of the deep, but my mind refused to be reassured. The hatch sealed with a metallic hiss, the lights dimmed, and we began our slow descent. As we sank, the water darkened until it was nearly black, swallowing everything in sight. My pulse quickened with a mix of fear and awe. Small bioluminescent creatures floated by, glowing like tiny stars. Some hovered in groups, their movements graceful and almost magical. Ilara murmured something about energy use and evolutionary adaptation, but I barely heard her over the rush of adrenaline in my own ears. At first, the pressure was subtle, a constant weight pressing against the hull. Then it grew heavier, insistent, almost like the ocean itself was warning us. Every creak of metal made me tense, gripping the controls tightly. The thrill of human ingenuity against nature's extremes was undeniable. Hours or maybe minutes passed. Shadows moved outside, shapes too vague to identify. Occasionally, faint light from the abyssal plains below hinted at something massive, but distance and darkness kept it unclear. Just the play of light, Ilara said calmly, though the tension in her jaw betrayed her own curiosity. We both knew the ocean held secrets far beyond our understanding. Then came the first real encounter. A swarm of jellyfish-like creatures drifted past, glowing green, violet, and blue. They were small, delicate, but their movement made the water around them ripple, as if something larger followed. A shadow flickered behind them, too big to be any known species. My breath caught. Ilara leaned closer to the viewing panel, whispering, "There it is," or something like it. The abyss felt alive. Strange sounds vibrated through the water, clicks, pulses, and low hums that seemed almost like communication. I pressed my hand to the glass, half expecting to feel the presence of something enormous. For a moment, the world above seemed impossibly distant. I was a tiny human staring into an ancient, unknowable expanse. Ilara maintained her scientific calm, but excitement flashed across her face. Every sonar ping and data readout suggested a pattern. Gigantism in the deep sea wasn't just biology, it was survival. Energy is scarce, pressures immense, yet life adapted in extraordinary ways, growing larger, stronger. The fleeting glimpses of the colossal squid made my stomach twist with both fear and fascination. Time stretched endlessly. Darkness pressed in, Creatures drifted past like ghosts, some glowing faintly, others leaving only a ripple in the water. I felt both fragile and alive in a way I never had before. Curiosity, it seemed, was what drove humans into the unknown, even when the unknown was dangerous. Finally, as we hovered over a trench wall, the lights revealed something vast. A shadow coiled and drifted, impossibly long, almost dreamlike. Not fully visible, but clearly enormous. My throat tightened. Alara's obsession wasn't myth, it was real. For a few minutes, the world narrowed to that single glimpse of something colossal, the deep sea holding its secret just out of reach. When we ascended, the surface light felt strange and comforting at the same time. The abyss receded, but the images, sounds, and faint shadows stayed with me. I had witnessed something extraordinary, something that made human achievement feel both immense and small. Deep sea gigantism was no longer just a theory, it was real, a living mystery waiting for those brave enough to explore it. If you love discovering the secrets of the deep sea, subscribe for more amazing wildlife adventures. And don't forget to like this video if you want to see more incredible creatures from the deep shadows of Titans. When we descended again the next day, the trench felt even more distant from the world above. It was a place where time seemed to move differently, slow and indifferent. The Nautilus too hummed as we sank, a small human-made shell surrounded by endless darkness. I hadn't slept much. The shadows from our previous dive replayed constantly in my mind. Every sound from the hull felt louder now, filled with expectation. This time, we were not just searching for signs. We were looking for the giants themselves. Hours into the descent, the abyssal plain appeared beneath us, flat and empty like a dark desert. Then something moved. At first, I thought it was debris drifting across the seafloor, but the shape began to change. Long forms stretched outward, bending and lifting with purpose. Legs far too many to count came into view. They were thin, jointed, and incredibly long. What we were seeing looked like a Japanese spider crab, but far larger than any ever recorded. Alara spoke calmly through the headset, though I could hear the excitement beneath her voice. Its movement matches what we expect from a megafaunal arthropod, slow and careful. Energy use is everything down here. Creatures can't afford waste. She adjusted the external lights, keeping them dim so we wouldn't disturb it. One massive claw swept across the sand, lifting clouds of sediment that drifted slowly upward. The creature's size was overwhelming. Each leg was longer than my body. Its shell covered the ground beneath it as it moved, yet it wasn't clumsy. Every step was steady and controlled. Watching it, I realized that deep sea gigantism wasn't about being impressive. It was about survival. In an environment with little food, extreme pressure, and freezing temperatures, size could mean efficiency. Bigger bodies stored energy longer and moved less often. Alara continued explaining, her words steady and clear. Cold water slows metabolism. High pressure changes how tissues function. Oxygen levels allow larger bodies to work efficiently. And food is scarce, so larger animals survive longer between meals. I listened closely. More than facts, it felt like a history lesson written into living creatures. These animals carried millions of years of adaptation in their bodies. We followed the spider crab at a safe distance, recording everything we could. Then the darkness shifted again. A much larger shadow passed beside us. My body went still. The lights revealed a massive anglerfish, its glowing lure floating ahead of its mouth like a signal light. Its teeth were long, curved, and sharp, built for grabbing anything unlucky enough to drift too close. As it passed, the submersible shook slightly. The water around us vibrated with its movement. In that moment, I understood something clearly. Even giants were not safe here. Everything in the trench lived under constant risk. Survival depended on careful balance. Alara quietly adjusted our position, moving us upward just enough to stay out of its path. My hands were damp with sweat as I held the controls. When the anglerfish disappeared into the dark, the silence returned. Alara spoke softly. Nothing here is random. Every feature has a purpose. Size, light, shape, they all come from long trials. Her words carried respect, not fear. I felt it too. These creatures were strange, but they were perfectly suited to their world. We spent several more hours tracking the spider crab. It moved slowly but steadily, disturbing sediment and sending smaller animals scattering. The trench felt alive in subtle ways. Alara explained as we worked. Gigantism here is a solution. Larger bodies reduce risk from predators, store energy, and travel farther between food sources. Speed doesn't matter here, patience does. Later, near a ridge, I noticed large shapes moving far below us. They were hard to see, but their scale was undeniable. The water itself seemed to shift around them. I thought again of the colossal squid, the reason we had come. Whatever lived here wasn't fighting nature, it was working with it. When we finally began our ascent, my thoughts were crowded with images and ideas. The giants we saw weren't monsters. They were records of evolution, shaped by pressure, darkness, and time. As sunlight slowly returned, I felt changed. The deep sea had shown us its giants, not loudly, but quietly. And in doing so, it reminded me that discovery is not about control, it is about understanding and respect. Secrets of the Abyss. The descent that day felt different from the start. We were no longer just looking for giant creatures. We were trying to understand the patterns that allowed them to exist at all. The trench felt active, almost organized, as if every shadow and faint movement followed rules we were only beginning to notice. Only minutes into the dive, the sonar began to behave strangely. Signals bounced back unevenly, forming tall shapes on the screen. Alara leaned forward, focused. "Look at this," she said, her voice low but excited. The monitor showed towering mineral structures rising from the seafloor. They looked like buildings in a sunken city. These were hydrothermal vents, releasing superheated water filled with chemicals from deep within the earth. As we moved closer, the vents revealed a dense community of life. Giant tube worms stood upright around the vents, some taller than a human. Their red plumes moved slowly with the currents. Large crustaceans crawled over the hardened minerals, their bodies thick and strong. Even inside the submersible, we could feel a low vibration from the vent activity. This place wasn't empty or quiet, it was full of energy. Alara carefully adjusted the lights so we wouldn't disturb the animals. "These vents are like food centers in the deep sea," she explained. "Instead of sunlight, life here runs on chemical energy. Bacteria use chemicals like hydrogen sulfide to produce food. That energy moves up the food chain and supports very large organisms." She paused, watching a crustacean move slowly across the rock. "In this environment, being large helps. It allows animals to store energy and survive longer without eating." I watched several giant crustaceans move together across the seafloor. They didn't panic when a smaller predator passed nearby. Instead, they stayed close, adjusting their positions as a group. Their movements were slow but coordinated. Their size wasn't for show. It reduced risk and saved energy. Everything here seemed designed to avoid waste. Alara prepared to collect a DNA sample from one of the tube worms. Her hands were steady as she worked. "The genetics show very slow growth," she said. "Cold temperatures slow everything down: metabolism, cell division, and healing. Over long periods, that slow growth leads to huge size." I watched the tube worm sway gently as the sample was taken. It felt like touching a system far older than anything on land. As we continued to study the vents, I noticed movement far below our lights. At first, it looked like drifting sediment, but then it shifted again, smoothly and with purpose. The shape was massive, far larger than the spider crab or the anglerfish we had seen before. It moved slowly, almost calmly, deep beneath us. "Like the video, if you're feeling the tension build." "Alara," I said quietly. She turned toward the screen just as the shape faded into darkness. For a moment, neither of us spoke. "That was huge," she finally said. "Much larger than anything we've recorded so far." She took a breath. "If these vents can support giants like this, then the open abyss might support even larger life." We adjusted our position and continued recording the vent ecosystem, but my attention kept drifting downward. The vents, the giant worms, the crustaceans, all of it felt connected. This wasn't random growth. It was a system. Energy flowed from the Earth itself into living forms, shaping bodies and behavior over millions of years. As we prepared to ascend, Alara reviewed her samples one last time. "This goes beyond gigantism," she said. "This is a full network of life shaped by extreme conditions. Every large body, every slow movement is part of a long-term strategy." She paused, then added, "And whatever we saw down there, that's something we're not ready to explain yet." The steady hum of the submersible filled the silence as we rose. I realized the giants weren't strange exceptions. They were the logical result of their environment. The deep sea didn't reward speed or strength alone. It rewarded patience, efficiency, and balance. As surface light slowly returned, I felt both uneasy and motivated. We had seen how gigantism was supported, how the ecosystem worked, and how much still remained hidden. The ocean had given us answers, but also bigger questions. Somewhere below, the abyss continued on, quiet and immense, waiting for us to return. Titans awaken! The trench felt different that day. Even before we descended, there was a sense of tension in the air, as if the ocean was aware of us. The Nautilus II slipped into the darkness, its lights cutting narrow paths through the black water. I focused on the instruments and sonar, but my attention kept drifting downward, toward what waited below. Small points of light appeared first. Bioluminescent flashes moved past us in short bursts, blinking in patterns rather than at random. Alara leaned closer to the screens. "They're signaling," she said quietly. "That's how species communicate down here. Light replaces sound." She pointed to a faint trail of moving light below us. "Something large is responding." Then we saw it. At first, it was only a shadow, wide and stretching beyond our lights. Slowly, the shape became clearer. Long tentacles unfolded, moving with control and purpose. The body followed, massive and solid, built for strength and long travel. Faint blue and green lights pulsed across its mantle, flashing in steady rhythms. It was a squid, but far larger than any known species. Alara spoke carefully, almost in disbelief. "This is it," she said, "a deep sea giant. Its size allows it to hunt large prey, defend itself, and move efficiently through the trench." She pointed to the sonar data. "Its muscles are thick, and its blood chemistry allows it to stay active in low oxygen. Even its reproduction is designed for long life and survival. Nothing here is wasted." I watched as one tentacle stretched toward a group of large crustaceans, then slowly pulled back. The movement was calm, controlled, and effortless. One limb alone was longer than our submersible. The scale was hard to process. Then the squid reacted to us. Its light patterns changed, flashing red and purple. A tentacle brushed the hull, not aggressively, but with curiosity. The submersible shook slightly. My chest tightened as I realized how fragile we were compared to it. Alara's hands tightened on the controls. "We need space," she said. "Slow retreat." We moved back carefully as the squid passed through the trench. It didn't chase us, but the water around it shifted with every movement. One mistake could have pushed us into the trench wall. Fear and awe mixed in my chest as I watched it move with total control. Alara continued to speak, steady and focused. "Its size supports ambush hunting, long reach, strong muscles, slow metabolism. It can stay down here for hours without rest. Survival here depends on patience and timing, not speed." Suddenly, the squid pulled away fast, sending sediment and light flashing through the water. We had drifted too close to its feeding area. Alara guided the submersible out with precision, and after several tense moments, the water settled again. At a safe distance, we watched the squid fade back into the darkness. Its lights pulsed slowly, then disappeared. Alara spoke softly. "We can study it, but we'll never fully understand it. This species belongs to a world we can't survive in." As we began our ascent, I felt changed. We had seen the peak of deep-sea gigantism, not as a monster, but as a master of its environment. The abyss had shown us how life adapts when pushed to the extreme, and it reminded me that exploration is not about control, it is about respect. Return to the surface. The ascent felt slower than expected. After spending so much time in the abyss, it was hard to leave it behind. The submersible rose steadily, and faint light from above slowly returned. When we finally reached the surface, the horizon looked calm and ordinary, almost fragile compared to the powerful world we had just left below. Alara rested against the console for a moment before speaking. Her voice was quiet but certain. "Deep-sea gigantism doesn't happen by chance," she said. "Cold temperatures slow metabolism. High pressure supports dense, strong bodies. Oxygen may be limited, but these animals use it very efficiently. Food is scarce, so slow growth and energy savings are rewarded. Living longer allows them to reproduce over time, and large size helps them avoid predators and hunt bigger prey." She paused. "Every condition works together. These creatures are built for a place humans can only visit briefly." I watched as she organized the final data DNA samples, images, and video recordings of the Leviathan, the giant crabs, and the vent ecosystems. Her usual focus was still there, but now it carried something more: respect. She looked up at the early morning light reflecting through the window. "What we've seen is only a small part," she added. "The ocean holds countless life strategies. We're just beginning to understand them." That realization stayed with me. I felt small, but not in a bad way. Humans often think of themselves as masters of the planet, yet the deep sea showed a different truth. Survival isn't about control or power. It's about adapting slowly, making small improvements over long periods of time. The giants of the deep weren't accidents. They were the result of patience, balance, and time. As the submersible floated on the surface, I thought about everything we had seen. Each shadow in the trench had taught us something important. Curiosity without respect can be dangerous. Observation without humility is incomplete. True understanding comes slowly, in pieces, not all at once. We had looked into a world that did not need us, yet allowed us a brief glimpse. Then, just before the night fully gave way to morning, I noticed something beneath the waves. A large, distant shadow moved far below the surface. It was even bigger than the Leviathan, impossible to identify. It vanished almost instantly. Alara noticed my reaction and nodded quietly. No explanation was needed. The ocean was reminding us that there was still much we didn't know. I breathed in the fresh air. It felt normal, familiar, but heavier somehow. The deep sea had changed how I saw the world. Its giants showed us that life can thrive under extreme conditions, not through force, but through efficiency and adaptation. As we returned to our everyday world, I knew part of me would always remain in the abyss, shaped by what we had witnessed. The ocean had shared a secret, but not the whole story. If you enjoyed this journey into the deep sea, please like this video, share it with someone who loves ocean mysteries, subscribe for more incredible wildlife stories. Now, question for you. Do you believe there are even larger creatures still hidden in the deep ocean? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.